The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's the 18th of August, 2025. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And we are now in the final 2 weeks of the countdown to the 2025 football season. So I am going to begin right there today. The football team had their second scrimmage of fall camp on Sunday, and then broke camp, and training camp is now over. They will, I think, have the day off today, and then they will start preparing for the season opener against Notre Dame. And everybody wants to know what is that going to look like? What does that mean? And I thought the best way to open that discussion, Matt, was to do what I do pretty much weekly at this time of year, and do a question and answer session with the fans. It gives them a chance to ask questions about what's on their mind, and it gives us a chance to be on the pulse of what they want to know and give them our perspective to the best that we can. I mean, we can't talk about schemes, we can't talk about injuries. That's obvious for obvious reasons. I mean, the schemes are very obvious reasons. The injuries, the reason I think that they're so sensitive about talking about injuries is that they feel that opponents will target those players and where they've been hurt and try to re-injure them. And they don't want teams they're playing to know that, player X, twisted his right ankle, or, player Y has a problem with his left shoulder, and so forth and so on. So it's a legitimate concern, and one that we certainly have no problem cooperating on. And I know people are antsy, but here's what I'm going to say: we don't know, as we sit here this morning, of anybody that has a significant season-ending injury in training camp. I mean, there are some nicks and guys that had to sit out a little bit and stuff, but nothing of any season shaping significance that we're aware of. So that's, I think it's okay for me to say that. I don't think health is going to be a problem going into the season opener. And that is something that you obviously always hold your breath about as you go through fall camp. So, Matt, I thought what I would do here is just, go through this question and answer thing a little bit, and have get your feedback on some of these subjects. I'd put my feedback on the message boards and on the thread. But a lot of questions about the wide receiver position. And, everybody's looking for that one dude to just jump to the front and be the alpha, whether it be JoJo Trader or Josh Moore or Malachi Tony. They want to know that there's one guy jumping out above everybody else. But I really don't think that's the case. I'll throw out the fact that to my eye, Dylan Upshaw has had as good a fall camp as Dylan Upshaw has had as good of a fall camp as anybody. I mean, every time I've watched drills, every time I've watched any bits of practice, this kid just makes play after play after play. Nobody's even thinking about Upshaw. Okay. I think that the receiver position is going to be by committee. I wouldn't be surprised if as many as 7-8 guys play receiver during the course of games. I mean, you start getting down like to the Nycard, Chance Robinson, Ray Joseph, that, down in those like probably 6, 7, 8 spots. Those guys are performing well enough to be out on the field at times. But they're not going to be as good as JoJo. They're not going to be good as Josh Moore. They're not going to be good as Malachi Tony. They're not going to be as good as Upshaw. They're not going to be as good as CJ Daniels. It's just a position where you have a lot of guys, Matt, that are capable of making contributions. I think they're going to get the opportunity to do so.
Well, this is the problem with modern day college football. It's not a Miami problem. It's a everybody problem. and Mario sort of touched on it the last time he talked to us a few days ago. And I asked Mario the question at his press conference. I asked him about his roster building. Is it where he wants it to be yet? And his response was that it can never be where I want it to be because of the way college football is now. Anybody who's a third teamer is going to leave, right? So he says, you're lucky to have a good two deep. That was basically the essence of his answer. And this is now the problem with Gary sort of said it nicely, but he clearly said, Gary just clearly said, and I agree with him, there's probably 3 or 4 receivers that are head and shoulders above the rest, but the others deserve playing time because they're good enough. They put in the work. They're good dudes. So let's get them some reps. Well, that's not how college football is supposed to be anymore. That is how it is now. That's not how it's supposed to be.
And Matt, we may not see a lot of Nikar. We may not see a lot of Chance Robinson.
Dawson's already said he's going to play. He's going to roll receiver. He said he's going to keep them all fresh and wide receiver because they're going to get so tired. The receivers last year must have been exhausted. Poor Xavier Restrepo by the end of the game. I'm amazed he could even walk in a straight line. Got to keep them fresh, right? I play the best players as long as they can go. I'm not a fan of if these guys are your 5th, 6th, 7th best receivers. It's just playing them because they've earned it, because they put in the work.
What if you can't identify best guys?
Well, you literally just said it 3 minutes ago that 3 or 4 guys were standing out and you named them. I think
I named 5. Didn't I name 5?
Okay, so 5 guys. So that's what they played. Last year they rolled 4. Well, they rolled 4 guys, but they had JoJo, if he was healthy, would have been the 5th that would have rolled in and out. But anyway, my point is, Shannon Dawson clearly is looking at playing 7, maybe even 8.
And wait, let me just stop you for a minute. I didn't even get to Marion and Tony Johnson.
Right. That's why
that takes us to like 7.
Right. This is part of the problem that you create, not with transfers necessarily, but with the new system. Right. It's not a Miami problem. It's an everyone problem. If you don't play guys who are younger, they're probably going to try to get other schools have a much better chance of trying to poach them. If they played you behind Tony Johnson, they're going to bring in another portal guy. We need you here. Look at what we have for you here. Blah, 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 blah. Miami doesn't have a quarterback yet for next year. We're going to have a quarterback. Whatever it is they're going to negative recruit against, they'll do it to get Dalen, to get Josh Moore, to get, if these guys aren't playing this year as much as they think they should be, right? To get Malachi Tony. They're the 3 best true freshman receivers as a group I can remember seeing in a long time. I get in trouble for saying stuff that I've seen in 30 years. I can't remember 3 freshmen that look this good ever since I've covered the team. And I've been covering the team.
Well, think back to Reggie Wayne.
But that's what I say. Since I covered the team, which is 2001, right? I can't remember seeing 3 true freshmen come in and look this good in the same cycle. I can't remember it. Maybe it's happened. But these 3 guys all look like NFL level future stars that just need to keep progressing. And if they keep following the progression they should be on, they're going to be amazing. Okay. So you got to play those 3 guys. You bring in 3 transfers who are veterans. You have no other veterans in the room. So Shannon Dawson, that's how coaches are, right? We got to play those guys. They're the most experienced. They're not going to crumble under pressure. We know what we got. So now you got 3 more guys. That's 6 guys. Now you got Ray Joseph. You got JoJo Trader, who's probably your best pure receiver, physical receiver. If
JoJo's got to play, so now you're at 7. They got to play.
Yeah, and not related to anyone in particular, but my other thing is when you're deep at a position, which I think Miami is at receiver, maybe not ultra talented with experienced, proven talent. They're certainly not. I mean, they're obviously not proven talent. Like, Mario can get mad at me for saying that, but it's just true. Okay, there's no high-level proven talent at Miami at the college level right now at receiver. So now do you take a guy who's unproven if he's banged up a little bit, right? Because guys are banged up. They're going to play, but they're banged up, right? And there's one guy at receiver who we know is banged up who's probably really good. Do you play him at maybe 80% over another guy who's 100%, right? That's the other question they got to answer. These are questions that could be the difference, depending on what Miami's answers are, between winning against Notre Dame and losing to Notre Dame if it's a close game. It's just one rep can be the difference in these games. One receiver that breaks away from his defensive back for a 60-yard touchdown, that can be hard to overcome in a tight game, which this probably will be. And I think it'll be low scoring, by the way. I think people will be smart if they take the under on it. I think it's 53.5, which is not a big, the over-unders last year were 70, 65, right? So even the Vegas people are like, Miami's offense probably isn't going to be like it was last year. but the defense is going to be much better. So again, I have reservations about the receiver. I would put it as cautiously optimistic. I feel like if I wasn't a Miami person who like just tends to think Miami stuff's going to be good, if I'm looking from the outside in and this was Notre Dame, I'd be saying Notre Dame's receivers are a major weakness, right? Because they haven't proven anything. They haven't done anything. We just think we know that Miami's receivers are going to be really good because like that's what we do. We're Miami people, like, you know, they should be good, right? 3 receivers are flashing. They're true freshmen. You got a JoJo Trader who's supposedly going to be a future star. You bring in 3 portal guys who are all good enough. You know, one of them was a 1,000-yard guy at Liberty a couple of years ago. But if you in your heart of hearts as fans watching this right now, if you put this receiving core on a different team with a different quarterback, like let's just say they're at FSU, okay? Let's give FSU all these receivers. Are you as a Miami fan scared of the FSU receivers? Are you as a Miami fan going to say, oh my God, what are we going to do to stop this offense at FSU? Because look at these receivers. I don't think in your heart of hearts as Miami fans, you're going to be saying that. So it's nice to take the jump and leap of faith, which we do as fans, which is say, receivers fine. Receivers deep. They're going to be amazing. It's going to be fine. It's nice to say it, but you got to see it. You got to see it. And if at FSU, the receivers, the first 2 or 3 or 4 games against 2 really good opponents in those first 4 games, if those receivers were getting open on DBs and making big plays on those DBs, now as a Miami fan, you're scared of FSU's receivers, right? But you got to see it first, because right now as we sit here, if we're speaking honestly, Miami's receivers are a problem because we don't know. And you can clip they're a problem and put it on Twitter and get me in trouble. But like, it's just the truth. I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, the receivers are going to be fine. They're going to be great. We don't know. And last year we didn't know about the cornerbacks. We were worried about cornerback. We were worried about safety last year, the depth at safety last year. And we'd say, we got to see. And it turned out to be bad. And at receiver, we got to see. It could be fine. It could be great. It could be bad. It could be bad at receiver. Maybe they're not going to get open very often. But you got to wait and give them the chance to prove that they can get open, give them the chance to prove they can make big plays. And if they don't, that's when you say, we really now have a problem. You know, until then, you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, making big plays in the games is where the respect comes from. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like right now, there's not a receiver on this football team that Notre Dame's defensive coordinator is sitting there in South Bend.
I guarantee you, they are not scared of this receiving core. Guarantee you, they're scared to death.
Well, they've never seen it. They don't know whether to be. They don't know whether to be scared or not. They've never seen any of these guys, you know, play on a college football team. I mean, they can go back and look at their high school tape. And
they've seen the 3 transfer guys, and I don't think they're scaring Notre Dame.
No, that's my point. Like, so I don't think that defense coordinator is sitting in South Bend right now saying, I got to stop Malachi Toney, or I got to stop Josh Moore, or I got to stop CJ Daniels. Like, no, they're just playing defense on August 31st.
Yeah, they're not giving safety help over the top against Josh Moore. Okay. Like they are going to be stacking up the top. Why I keep saying, if Shannon Dawson wants to earn his money, he better let Carson Beck air that ball out downfield. Because guess what? If your receivers aren't good and they're not good enough, your season's over anyway. Your best chance against Notre Dame, which is one of the top teams in the country, top 5, and which is, you know, many people think will be in the championship game again. Your best chance against a team like that, if you're Miami coming from where Miami's coming from, is to trust your receiving core that you know Notre Dame doesn't respect and frickin' hand it up their butt from drive 1 with a downfield passing game, because Notre Dame's going to be stacking up to stop the run, and you don't want to waste 2 possessions, 3 possessions, 4 possessions just to see what happens with your own defense. Can we stop them? Is it going to be a close game? Let's not take any chances. You hand it to Notre Dame. You put them on their heels on the road from drive 1 using your passing game down the field because you know Notre Dame thinks you can't pass the ball to receivers that have done nothing in their lives yet to this point. No receiver at Miami's had over 500 yards in a season. That's a fact, including the transfers.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you could trust Carson Beck. I mean, you know, he's proven. You're spending a lot of money to have him in your program. You know, going into the season, you could trust Carson Beck. But again, these receivers, there's not one receiver that has busted out yet that anybody's game planning for. So the onus is on them with their performance to start building their resumes. And, you know, I don't think that should offend anybody. I mean, you know, from JoJo Trader on down, you know, having great high school highlight tape.
And you know what? God forbid, Gary, we disrespect the receivers. God forbid.
Well, I don't think we're so sensitive. I mean, I think they've
remember
all
last week or 2 weeks ago on Twitter, somebody's like, "Oh my God," he said they might not be good. Who cares?
but
Like, let them think we think they're not good. Let them have the chip on their shoulder. That's how these people thrive sometimes.
But see, the thing is, they are good, and you see the potential for these guys, and it's going to be up to them to get it done on game day. And I think they're going to get the opportunity to do so. I don't think that Shannon Dawson is going to have handcuffs on his offense, especially until it's proven that he needs to do that, and I don't see that happening. But
yeah.
I don't think it's going to come as easy as it came last year. And it's going to be really interesting because as much as we want to pump all these young guys up, they're young guys and they still are learning and still have a lot left to learn. The nuances of getting open, the nuances of running their routes, the adjustments they have to make depending on the defense that's called on the field. I mean, it's a lot more than just running and catching in training camp. And
I mean, here's the piece you're sort of missing. Okay, I've seen this over and over again. Fans have seen it over and over again. You have, even though you don't want to maybe acknowledge it. Miami's tendency in big games like this is to be conservative until they don't have to be conservative, right? Until they know what they have, right? How many times have we seen? I mean, and we call it the Mario Cristobal offense, right? They know they're amazing on the offensive line. They know they can run the ball, and that's why when we see run on first down, run on second down, pass on third down, run on first down, run on second down, pass on third down, until they figure things out, right? I want to see a Miami team. How many times have we seen this, Gary, where another team comes in and does something Miami's not expecting, and Miami's defense is on its heels from the start? We're behind earlier in a close game with a team we shouldn't be early, like whatever it is, right? It happens every year, right? I mean, it does. That's a fact. And I can't remember Miami doing that a lot of times to Notre Dame, which is why I'm saying now's the time to do it. Now's the time. You got an experienced quarterback. They don't. Take the chance, man. Like, don't do the predictable, pack it in, let's be safe for a little while, we're at home, let's keep it close with a great team, try to win it in the fourth quarter when we're in better condition because it's hot out. Like, I get it why they want to do that. It's the safe thing to do. But at some point, and Miami always thinks they're the better team. That's the other reason they play it safe a lot. They think they're a better offensive line than their defensive line. They sort of overestimate their own team sometimes, right? And maybe rightfully so. But there are some times where you just have to just sort of let it go and not be so micromanaged to this sort of mental theorem of our offensive line is better than their defensive line, so let's not take chances with downfield throws against a really good secondary. Let's just keep everything within the 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, maybe take a deep shot here and there one-on-one, but just make sure you don't get it intercepted. Carson, overthrow it if you have to, and then come back to the pack-it-in offense. Like, I just have a bad feeling. And I've seen Shannon Dawson do it when he's not quite sure, right? When he has Emory Williams starting against Clemson, right? Which they won, by the way, right? When they had Emory Williams starting again against FSU, even after he beat Clemson, you sort of see this packet-in offense where he's not quite sure what he has. And I have a feeling he's not quite sure yet what he has at receiver. And my concern is it's going to cost him the Notre Dame game if they're too conservative. Like, I don't know if I'm wrong, but maybe we'll be sitting here on Monday night, September 1st, saying, Matt was right. Like, they lost by 3 points. I mean, because they only scored 3 points in the first half. They didn't figure out till the second half that they had an advantage with their receivers, and then it was too late. Like, I don't want to be sitting here September 1st having that conversation.
Yeah, well, I like you. I'm expecting a tight game. I'm expecting a lower scoring game than maybe some people think. I also like the under in the game, and I think that Shannon Dawson is in an interesting spot. I mean, if you're looking like, where is my stability? My quarterback, I think they feel pretty good about him. And we're watching him get progressively better. Every practice and training camp, he's gotten progressively better, and you're seeing it coming back to him, the timing, the ball placement. He's as good a quarterback with ball placement as I think I've ever seen. This is a kid that knows where the ball needs to be to give his receiver a chance to get it, and he could put it there. He's got the arm strength. He's got the touch. I've been very impressed with his ball placement throughout training camp. But where your comfort level really is the offensive line and the running backs. And, Matt's right. They may decide.
I'm sorry. What'd you say? I couldn't hear you. You broke up for a second. What? What'd you say? Matt, what?
I said, I think you're right. I think that you may see them lean on the running game early in that football game. And it's going to be really interesting to see what that means. And, if freshmen are out there at receiver, can you trust them? Do you trust them? And
are you going to
be
beat Notre Dame if you don't trust them? That's the bigger question. Can you beat
Yeah,
Notre Dame if you don't trust your receivers? My answer is no, which is why I'm saying from the beginning, man, just let the receivers go. Let them go, do their thing.
Just play
Run your full
football.
offense. Don't be conservative.
Don't have regrets
Let it go.
Don't have regrets at midnight on August 31st.
Like, they're going to think that their advantage is their offensive line and run game against Notre Dame's defensive seven. I get it. But Notre Dame knows that too. That's your advantage from the jump. And now you put them on their heels. Like, I'm a chess player, a really bad one. But that's called playing chess, winning chess, right? When you have your opponent befuddled, you can look it up, Gary, befuddled, that's when you have a massive advantage. And that's what you can do when you do something that their defense didn't expect. Their defensive players will freak out. The communication will break down. One guy busts, another guy busts. Now this guy's covering for that guy thinking he's going to bust. That's how you F up a defense. And that's what they got to do. You can look up F up also, Gary. Spelled F, capital F, space U-P. That's how you spell that. You can look it up.
It's funny because as I refer back to the question and answer session that I have going with the fans, it reminds me that Morales 3255 flat asked me that question. He said, Gary, with all the talk of Josh Moore and Malachi Toney doing great in camp, what are the odds on Mario trusting them enough in game one? And that's exactly what we've just been talking about the last 5 minutes. That's a legitimate question. And we won't know the answer to it until game day. I think they're going to trust them. I feel like they've earned that trust in training camp. But, the coaches are, they're the ones that are in the hot seat, man. They're the ones that got to deliver the goods on game day. And, would you knock Shannon Dawson if he's leaning more on Fletcher and Jordan Lyle and, to a lesser degree, Elijah Lofton and, guys that have been in the program? I wouldn't be shocked if that's the direction he goes. So very interesting. And, I know we talked a lot about receivers here this training camp. Some of it's gotten Matt in a little bit of hot water, but it's a legitimate subject. It really is when you have all these new faces and all these young guys that have sort of emerged in the equation, but you don't really know what they have. And you won't know until we see it on game day. A lot of questions also about special teams. So much new there. I can say that I love what I see of Marion and Tony and Ray and these guys in the kick return game. I think that they have done a sensational job of recruiting the middle of the roster here in the offseason. They've made this a better football team by making the middle of the roster better. They already had Minoa. They already had Ruben Bain. They already had Mesidor. They already had acquired Carson Beck. But it's the middle of the roster, the depth, the depth of quality that they were able to bring in the portal that has fortified so many positions on the team. But I think that we are going to see it big time, Matt, in special teams, because a lot of those guys are going to be on special teams. And you're going to have guys that are starter level quality talents. Bonner, the linebacker, for example, he's not going to be first team. He's not going to make first team. This is a guy played for NC State, came here. He's not going to be first team. He'll rotate in, but he needs to make rather a major contribution on special teams. And Matt, I think this investment they've made in the middle of the roster is going to pay huge special teams dividends.
Yeah, special teams coverage teams have been fine, honestly, since Mario got here. The return game's been the issue. Kicking game's been great. I'm still a little concerned about the kicking game, honestly, because both those guys have struggled, to put it mildly, last year. The FAU, the Davis kid hasn't even really kicked. I think it's 3 for 8. And then obviously Auburn from Texas struggled he got benched. They didn't want him back. But the best, to me, the hidden thing right now in special teams, and Gary mentioned Keelan Marion. I don't think Keelan Marion's going to be the guy that everyone's raving about as the year goes along. I think the hidden secret weapon on the team that nobody's even talking about, everyone knows he can do it really well, but no one's really talking about it much. Keontae Scott on punt returns, I think he will have 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I think he will average 7+ yards. I mean, I watched him in practices. His 0 to 60, so to speak, he doesn't go 60 miles an hour, but his acceleration and his fearlessness, he's not big, but he just runs, like he just goes. I think I haven't seen a guy really return like that in a while.
You may have to see if they use him in that role.
Oh, I think they will. I don't see how they can't. He had a couple of touchdowns at Auburn that were electric. If they don't put him if they put Ray at punt returns instead of him, that's just insane to me.
Yeah, but what about Malachi Tony? You have the option.
You're not putting a true freshman at punt return. That's such a important position, punt return. You see punt returners who are inexperienced trying to catch balls inside the 5-yard line. You see punt returners who are inexperienced trying to do too much, returning it with a guy coming down to them 100 miles an hour, right? Because this is their chance to shine, and make a play on a big stage. If they put Malachi back there or Ray, I think it's a mistake, personally. Keontae Scott, I understand they don't want him to do extra reps and get tired, whatever, but that guy is special on punt return, man. That's the guy who I think, assuming they put him there, which I'd be shocked if they don't make him their primary punt returner, that guy's special as a return guy.
All right, we'll see. I mean, those decisions have to be made here in the next couple of weeks. They've all gotten reps in camp, and they're going to have to zero in on 1 or 2 guys for punt returns. And I guess the good thing is they do have some good options. So that's that's obviously a great thing. I got asked the question: I feel better about the areas of the team that I was concerned about, and whether I had some new areas of concern. And, the truth of the matter is, if I'm answering it honestly, I have to say no. I mean, if you asked me before practice began, what are you most concerned about? I would say I'm most concerned about defensive tackle, and I would say I'm most concerned about kicking. That would probably be 1A and 1B on my list. And I don't think that's changed, man. How about you? Have your areas of concern changed at all as we've covered these first couple weeks of training camp?
No, it always seems natural to me to get more comfortable with the team as fall camp goes along, for my concerns to be assuaged. Okay. But with that said, and I constantly saying this, I know fans hate it because you just want to answer. I know fans want to answer. It's either Miami's good or Miami's bad. Like there's no gray area, right? You have to make a decision. Are they excellent or are they terrible? But they're playing each other. And you can gauge 40 times. You can watch them thud. You can see them tackling dummies and hear how loud the noise is when their shoulder hits the dummy, okay? You can watch effort level, and you can watch one-on-ones. All you want, okay? But when the lights go on and everyone's, an orange out? Everyone's dressed in orange, right? You could either turn into a pineapple and just frickin' sit there and get eaten alive, or kiwi, is that a scary fruit? Or you could be a scary fruit like a kiwi, covered in hair. You slice it in half and it's a weird green color and it's very tart. And you don't necessarily know that player in practice, how he's going to show up on game day, especially with so many new faces this year. So there's just so many unanswered questions. So for me to sit here and say, I think Justin Scott's going to be great, I do. But I thought Wesley Bissainthe the last 2 years was going to be great because he looks great in practices, right? You see certain guys, and sometimes they're great in games, and sometimes it's like, why do they look like that? They look so different. They're thinking too much, or they're whatever the case is. Something's going on that's just different for players sometimes in that 3-hour span versus when they're just with their teammates. And some of it has to do with, and those of you that played football know this, when you're in practice day after day after day for 30 straight days against your own teammates, you know who you're going against. You know their tendencies. You know the route trees a lot of the times, right? There's not that much different that player is going to do in that offense after the first 2 weeks of practice. And now you're going against a different team, and the opponent is a guy you've never seen before. He runs a different style. Maybe he's longer, taller, more physical. Maybe he's shorter, faster, quicker. Whatever it is, you can study the tape all you want from a year ago, right? But in game one, you're not quite sure how he's progressed in those 9 months or 8 months or whatever it is. Gestation period, I think you call it, right, Gary? And some guys don't handle that well. And some guys look better in practice because they sort of figured it out. They're a little more comfortable mentally with what's going on the other side of the ball, that they understand it. And then when they see something that they don't quite understand or a type of player they're not quite matched up well with, they struggle. It gets in their head and they don't look like the same player. So for me to sit here and say I'm comfortable with everybody, I am. I mean, I think the receivers will be okay. I do. I think the defensive tackles are going to be better than I thought before fall practice started. But will they be? Just because I think it doesn't will it into reality. If I went in a time machine 3 months from now, would I be surprised if Miami finishes 55th in the country in run defense? No. Would I be surprised if Miami's receivers don't really have a guy who has over 800 yards or a dominant force at receiver? Would I be surprised? No. Would I be surprised if Miami has a 1,000-yard receiver? No. Would I be surprised if Miami's top 20 in run defense? No. Because we don't know. They're playing each other. They're comfortable right now. They need to be made uncomfortable, which won't come until August 31st. And when we see this team become uncomfortable and how they respond to that uncomfortability, that's when I'll know.
Uncomfortability? Is that a word?
Uncomfortability, that's a real Shodell word. And if you can even use it in Scrabble, but it has to be uncomfortable because it can only be 7 letters. And if you call me up at 8:30 p.m. On Sunday, I won't be busy that Sunday, August 31st at all. You call me up, I will give you probably a very different version of what I think about this team than us sitting here right now speculating based on just watching them play each other.
Yeah, and a lot of people asking about, are Lowe and Blunt gonna be kicked inside at times? Is Mesidor gonna go inside at times? We can't really comment on that. That involves schemes and use of personnel and stuff, and we can't really talk about that until after the season opener when we actually see whether that stuff is going to be incorporated into the defense. And the truth of the matter is we don't really know because just even if they try things in training camp doesn't mean that it's going to make the cut when they start putting a game plan together for Notre Dame. So it's going to be interesting how they manage. I mean, on face value, I don't feel they have enough at defensive tackle. I just don't. It's going to be interesting to see how they manage that. What happens if somebody gets hurt? You can have a 3-man rotation or a 4-man rotation, but what if 1 or 2 of those pieces start to disappear? Now you really got a problem. So we'll see what happens. I don't feel they have enough. That would be certainly my area of concern going into camp, and it's certainly my area of concern now. And then the other big one would be, I would say the kicking game, and just because you've got one kicker that ended last year on a down swing, you got another kicker that really hasn't done a ton. That by itself, can make things a little concerning. So anyway, so this Q&A thread I've been talking to, it's on the website. You guys could check it out. We cover a lot of ground in there. It will keep expanding as the questions roll in. So make sure that you check that out on the website this morning. All right. So other things that we've got going today on the website. We've got a lot of coverage that was there through the weekend for you guys to check out. We've got a column by Matt on how the team is seeking a breakthrough year. We take a look at Miami's offensive depth chart. We take a look at the quarterback battle taking place at Notre Dame. We offer some new bold predictions on what might happen here in the 2025 season. All stuff that you guys can enjoy reading and absorbing. In recruiting, we've got coverage of the high school football season that's starting to evolve with some of the local commits that Miami is on, and some of who who've committed. We had the guys out checking out West Boca running back Javian Mallory on Thursday night, I believe that was. You could check that story out on the website as well. We've got a story on how 10 local high schools are loaded with current and future Miami targets. So just a whole boatload of coverage on the website this morning for you guys to sink your teeth into. But that's going to do it for this morning for Good Morning CaneSport. Hope we've given you some insight. There's a lot more on the website. Please, if you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, the information's been on the bottom of your screen throughout this entire show. We want to bring the whole dang fan base together at CaneSport. Go and get your subscription in. Become part of our community. You will not be sorry. And your subscriptions do allow our entire team to do what we do every single day. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time.